Hi everyone, just a quick reminder that I have a new schedule. I am putting out answers to your questions on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and new information on new material on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you have any questions about anything I've put out, then write them in the comments and I will try to answer them by Saturday. Just make sure you write them to me by Friday morning because that's when I do the videos, really early in the morning. Okay, so this is a question for this week. Does the information you receive come to you during meditation, dreams, or at random times? Did it take you long to finally accept and trust the downloads you receive? So yes, 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 and yes. Thank you everybody for being here. No. Yes is the answer to all those questions. But to give you more information, I discovered at times when I was having a really hard time, which I have had a lot of in my life because I had a lot of challenges when I was young. So in young adulthood, I was having a very difficult time, and what I discovered was that in the middle of having really, really difficult emotional times, and sometimes even like panic, right in the middle of that, I could go into a different state, and it almost came to me spontaneously. I could go into a different state where all of the answers to any question that I had was there instantly. And my energy instantly changed and calmed. And I was just somehow moved into a different energetic state where everything that I wanted to know was right there. And my energy was changed at those times. And I could do it no matter how bad I felt, which I thought was really odd to be in the middle of such panic and suddenly feel amazing and just know everything that I wanted to know. Like anything that I wanted to know was right there for me. Now, following through with that information and keeping that energetic state that I went into in regular life over and over was not something that came easily to me. And even though I had the information, it's something that you have to practice over and over. And it's the same for anyone. You can get information about what you need to do or what you need to do to move forward to the next step. But that's information. Information is not really that helpful. Moving into that energetic state for the first time is more helpful, where you're really feeling and moving that new information, belief systems into your energy is what we call realization, as opposed to just hearing it with the mind. They're two different, very different states. But then taking that new energetic setup and making that habit and making that your standard default state is something that takes a lot of practice over time. And nobody can really make you do that or give you information that will make you do that. That is all on you and is like learning any skill. It's just practice over time. But it's very helpful to have the information presented to you in a way that realization is a lot more likely. And when I say realization, I mean moving that information into your energy so it restructures your energy. So that is part of what I try to do, all of what I tried to do in the videos for people. It's information, but it's more than information. It's the way that it is presented is supposed to help bring you into a different energetic state at that moment in time. What you do with that afterwards is up to you, and it's important because that's what makes that information and that energy yours. And then you learn to be that information, and then that flows on to other people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the information doesn't really matter. You can hear so many different things, and they have very little effect on your energy if it only comes in at the mind level and you're not processing it in an energetic state. So it's not getting the information to me that's so important, but it's moving it into your energy and changing your state. So when does it come to me? Well, to go back to the story, I first realized that I could do that myself. And actually, when I was younger, I realized that often happened with other people. When other people came to me when I was very young in a state of need, I could feel their need and somehow had answers that I may not have known before I was talking to them. And the way that I understand that is that it really is their desire that is helping to open a space in my own energy where I can move with what they want and bring that through for them. So that's how I understand what is happening. And the other way I understand it is I've talked in other videos about us all being connected to Source and us being a point of perception, meaning that Source is Source, it's the universe, it's perceiving everything and really knowing everything. But when we're born into Earth, we are a very specific point of perception, meaning we're only really looking out from our perception most of the time. Now, when we choose, we can move sort of inwards and backwards to a broader perception. And in that state, we can know more and feel and are aware of more. But this state of specific perception is more useful for creating in the world because it's new. It's something that has never been seen or done before. And so it's not lesser to be focused within yourself or focused on something in the world or focused on something physical. It's just different. But for bringing that broader information in, you have to go backwards and inwards to get that. And so I have sort of struggled for a while to name what happens when I do this, but the way that I understand it now is I'm moving inwards to a larger part of myself. And it is myself, it's not something else, but it's a very different part of myself than I'm normally working from. And so it does include other energies that are a much bigger part of me. And that's why I have gone back and forward with using the term I when speaking and we, because neither of those terms accurately define the space that I'm speaking from. We is probably better because it's a we that is something larger than me and me at the same time speaking. So that is just to explain to you what I perceive is going on. That was all very difficult to say. So yes, that information comes to me in all of those times. When I started feeling better and clearer about what I'm doing was when I started meditating. And what that does is it helps you move into that state of broader awareness, sort of on demand when you want to. So it helps you consciously move your energy into that state. And that is a great habit to have because you want to be able to consciously move into that state when you're having a difficult time and you've become confused. You want to move backwards and inwards and sort of reassess the situation and where you should be going and what would be the best place for you to move from. So after I practiced that for a while, in meditation, yes, and in dreams, yes, and at random times, I move into a state where I can receive information that I don't normally know and that often I didn't know before that time. Dreaming is also something that you can practice with. For me, I practiced with it quite a bit until I was able to go to sleep at night and set an intent and say, I'd like to see this or know this, and then have a dream about it that evening. You can do that. It's very powerful because when you're dreaming, you don't have the filters that your mind has during the day. So you can receive information that's a lot broader than you would normally have access to. The key is that when you wake up, you have to be able to interpret that information. So there's still a lot of work that you have to do in the daytime to open your mind and your filters to be able to hold on to that information after you have woken up. Did it take me long to trust this information? Yes, of course. I grew up in a fairly intellectual family, so I sort of had to cut myself off from this part of myself, like many people do in the early part of my life. And it is a process of learning to trust that again. And the biggest thing I can say about that is that trust is only developed through experimentation. You just have to experiment, get into a good state, wait until you get that idea, and it might seem odd. It might be like, oh, I have to go to this random coffee shop now that I've, don't normally go to, or whatever. You might get an idea, oh, I should take up salsa dancing. Well, you may never have been interested in it until that moment. When you're feeling really good and you get an odd idea, go experiment. As long as it's not dangerous or something you feel wouldn't be good for you, go experiment and see what happens. And the more that you do that, the more you will find out what kind of impulses and ideas are really coming from a larger source, and what kind of impulses and ideas are coming from fear or a more confused part of you. So you have to figure that out by trial and error. When you're feeling clear and happy and joyful is when you get the most clear impulses about how to move forward to get you where you want to be. Also, when you have woken up in the morning, especially if you've had a good night's sleep and a nice day beforehand, or at least a nice evening, or at least a nice hour before you went to sleep. Wake up in the morning. That's a really good time to make decisions, especially if you're confused about something. I cannot tell you the number of times in the evening I've thought to myself after a busy, hectic day, oh, this will be a great idea. I really need to do this. I really need to do this. I'd woken up in the morning and thought to myself, that's a horrible idea. I don't know how I was thinking that. But realized it was because I had become confused over the day and come away from my broader self. So morning time is a great time to practice with those impulses. And again, I can't say enough, just practice following through with things and keep an inventory of how that works out. And try and think of when you got the impulse and how you felt. And the more you do that, that is how you build up trust. Trust is not blind, ever. Trust is the feeling that you know this is going to work, and that is built up over time because you know what works and what doesn't work. Okay, that's all for now. Any more questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll try and answer them soon.